Which item? Welcome. Are we on, Nicole? Or Sarah? Welcome to the Board of Commissioners on this date. What is the date today? 16th. May 16th, 2023. And we'd like to start off by wishing a very happy birthday to our County Administrator, Nicole Felshaw, who loves her birthday so much that she loves me for saying that. Happy birthday, Nicole. Yeah, she loves her birthday. We're going to start off with an invocation by Pastor Jill Doherty from the New Promise Lutheran Church and a member of our Interfaith Council.
Yes, please.
Thanks for having me. Let's pray. Almighty God, we lift before you all who govern this state and in the city and county leadership of Washington County. May those who hold power understand that it is a trust from you to be used, not for personal glory or profit, but for the service of the people. Drive us from cynicism, selfishness, and corruption. Grant in your mercy just and honest government, and give us grace to live together in unity and peace. Grant now to these gathered leaders a sense of collegiality and partnership in the greater good as they meet today, that through them and their decisions, Washington County might be a better, safer place to live. All this we pray through your holy name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you so
Thank you
much.
very much.
Glad you're here.
Thank you.
We'll now have a Pledge of Allegiance by Sergeant Pat Lisi, a retired U.S. Marine. Sergeant.
Thank you. If you're able, please stand and follow me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Muchas gracias.
Thank you, Sergeant.
Thank
you
you.
for your service as always. Yep. First item on the agenda today is the consent agenda. The consent agenda is a means of expediting the consideration of routine matters. If a commissioner requests that items be removed from the consent agenda, those items are placed at the beginning of the regular agenda. Other than requests to remove items, a motion to approve the items on the consent agenda is not debatable.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we adopt the consent agenda consisting of the following items. Item A, consideration of auditor-approved claims for payment for May 3rd, 2023 through May 16th, 2023. B, consideration of regular commission meeting minutes of May 2nd, 2023. C, consideration of administrative adjustments, real property. D, consideration of administrative adjustments, personal property. E, consideration of applications for property tax abatement, which there is one, or actually, one. F, an acknowledgement of publishing notice of adoption of ordinance number 2023-1233-0, published on Sunday, May 7th, 2023, and that is my motion on the consent agenda.
Without division on the consent agenda, I second that motion.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. First item on the irregular agenda is an Employee Longevity Award, Tracy Crandall from the Sheriff's Office. And we have our Under Sheriff, Barry Golding.
I didn't recognize Deputy Crandall without her uniform.
I almost didn't.
Ran into her about 10 times at the county fair. She's doing a great job.
Yeah, I almost didn't either. So we want to recognize Deputy Tracy Crandall. She started with the Sheriff's Office in 2012. She worked in corrections for 9 years. While assigned to the Corrections Division, she worked in housing, transport, and booking. Deputy Crandall was also field training officer in the jail. She was over classification, IDHO, among many other assignments in corrections. In January of 2022, she decided to try out for patrol, and she was accepted in the patrol division. And I have to wonder if she had regrets around April. Deputy Crandall and Deputy Desktop were the two that were hit by the semi-truck on I-15. And she had 2 days left on field training, roughly. That was her second last day. So I commend her for her courage during that incident. That was a horrible thing to experience, I'm sure. So she's currently a defensive tactics instructor, a phlebotomist, a UCGIS TAC, which is the criminal history computer stuff. She works on that. CPR, a great CPR instructor, and over our first aid stuff. Tracy
Wow.
Crandall.
Yeah, that's quite a resume. Thank you for
What
everything.
keeps you so busy all the time? My goodness.
I guess, I don't know. I'm a single mom. I'm used to doing it all, so.
There you go.
She does a great job.
Well,
Thank
thank you very much, and above all, and most of all, for both of you, that we're just glad you're up and healthy and still mobile after that accident, so.
And we're gonna come down there and get a picture so Mom can take a picture of you.
And
All right, and item number 2, are you covering that one as well? Item number 2 is the Emergency Services Report, and we'll have Under Sheriff Golding come back up for that.
All right, this report period covers from April 17th through May 15th. Total calls for this report, 15 search and rescue calls. This brings the total number of calls in 2023 to 57 total call-outs for search and rescue. Total man-hours, this report, 515. Rescued subjects in county residents, we had 5. Out of county residents, we had 7. Out of Utah, we had 6. So about 2/3 are from out of the area as far as rescues. I'll just cover a couple of the operations we had over the past month. We had a 57-year-old female who'd fallen off a cliff east of Laverne and Overlook. Life flight was called. We staged near the incident command. The search and rescue utilized a rope system to raise the female back up off the cliff where she was loaded onto the helicopter, transported to the hospital. That seems to be a dangerous area right in there for people. So this is one that caught our attention Saturday. We had a lost 8-year-old up in Oak Grove. I don't know if you guys heard about that one. We immediately dispatched every on-duty deputy. Search and rescue was called. Star 9 UHP helicopter was called. There was obviously water hazards in the area of Oak Grove with 8-year-old. That was a deep concern to mobilize as many assets as we could as quickly as possible. Once we got there, it took about an hour and a half. They found him about a mile and a half away from where he was camped, and he was soaking wet. So search and rescue found him. Luckily, he was okay. He was just a little scared, and he was extremely saturated with water. He got into the water somewhere. And this is the last one I want to mention. The dive team, the search and rescue dive team, responded to assist the park rangers in recovering a 24-foot boat that sunk near the South Beach area at Sand Hollow. They raised the boat with lift bags. The fuel tanks leaked a little bit. Search and rescue state parks deployed water booms and accessories to soak up the fuel before it could get out. We're working with the state parks right now to recover some insurance on that for our costs that we incurred as a result of that search and rescue operation, which was quite extensive to lift that boat up off the bottom. So, and the rest are included in the report. There's several if you want to read through those.
Yeah, this is a great report.
Okay.
Stephen put that together, Sergeant.
I think Daryl did this.
Daryl?
Yeah, he does a good job.
Well, thank
Any
you
questions?
as always, communicate that to the men and women of search and rescue for the good work they do.
Crazy good.
Okay, item number 3 is consideration of purchase requests. Ray from our clerk auditor's office.
Hello. Okay, the first one I have here is a usual, it's for the equipment fuel for the roads department. This is for $32,053.53. The next one is for our IT department. This is a records management database conversion. This is part of their conversion being done between 2022 and 2024. And this is for $11,550. The next one is for Legacy Park. This is for a screener. It's a tractor-pulled screener where it lifts the rocks and stuff out of the dirt and soil for the arena and the racetrack. This is for $69,812.50. The next one is for food and beverage for the WIR reception. This is a total of $23,106.57. And the final one is for the sheriff's office. This is for 2 replacement treadmills for their weight room and gym, for their physical training. This is for $11,686.00. And unless there's any questions, that's all I have.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion that we pass the purchase request as outlined by Ray.
I'll second that motion, Mr. Chairman.
Motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes.
Thank you.
As always, those items have already been budgeted for, but being over the limit under state code, we have to pass them and approve them in a commission meeting. Item number 4, we have consideration of approval of a final plat subdividing 1 parcel into 2 in the RA1 zone, and consider the applicant's request to vary the roadway standards for a 2-lot subdivision. You are not Scott.
I am not Scott.
You're going to Reed is going to be
Yeah.
covering for Scott today.
Yeah, thank you. Reed Walking Horse, Community Development. We have, first item is Emmett Subdivision. This is a final plat that's been reviewed by the Planning Commission. It's up in Vail, and it's a 2-lot subdivision. You can see it there off of 300 West. And the applicants are seeking a waiver of the road improvements. 300 West is a private road, and so typically we wouldn't require road improvements on a private road, but in this case, the county commission is the only body that can grant a road waiver for a subdivision, and that's why we're bringing that before you today. There's 2 lots being created. Originally, the parcel was just over 12 acres. They're creating 2 parcels. One's going to be 8 acres, and the other one's about 4 3/4 acres. We do have a letter from the Northwest Special Service District who provides fire suppression for that area. They're happy with the existing road, and they have provided a letter stating that they'll continue to provide service for those residents that are along that road.
So Reed, the width looks good on that road, but you said it's a private road?
It is a private road. The county
So does
does
that
not
mean it's
maintain
just
it.
prescriptive use, it's just not been deeded?
Yeah, it hasn't been deeded. It's been a private road, I understand, for quite some time. And it is a good road. The residents maintain it. The width varies from 24 feet to just over 30 feet in some places.
But that's the part that, it looks like the fences are wider than that.
Yeah. Yeah. And there is a hammerhead at the end of the road where
I noticed that on the map.
emergency vehicles can turn around, so.
I don't know, Commissioners, as I read through it, it did seem like it qualified. I know that we always talk about this in a consistency context, right? So I think there might have even been a similar subdivision on our last meeting, but that was on more of a bigger thoroughfare. It was a road that I think was going to lead to more development behind it and in
Correct.
front of it. It seems to me, as I read through this, that I feel comfortable that this might be one of those ones that qualifies for the exemption of the grant. You know, Commissioner Alquist, if you had any-
Well, there's an extension of that road actually that goes to another parcel owned by some other folks. You can see from
I
the
did
red
notice
picture.
that.
And it's really going to be difficult to develop anything further because it starts to slope off to the Santa Clara River at quite a good
Yeah.
clip. In fact, it gets down to about 50 to 60% gradient. So seldom are you going to see anything crossing or getting further developed. So as we looked at it and as I toured it, I felt like the roads were actually pretty good, maybe even better than some in the area that are also private. Yeah.
Okay. Agreed.
So with that, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we that we approve this final plat with a waiver for the road improvements. And that's my motion. Is that?
And I think that's fine, and I second that with one caveat that I want to be on record about, is they understand that when they divide a parcel like this, they're going to get separate notices from Northwest Fire, they're going to get separate charges, they're going to get separate tax ID numbers, they're going to get separate,
Okay.
you know, just, I want to be on record that they understand that these become, even though they were maybe under one umbrella at one point, they're two separate, complete
Yeah,
entities now.
okay.
Okay, I second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion passes. Thank you, Reed, on that one. Item number 5 is consideration of ordinance number 2023-1234-0, an ordinance amending the planned development commercial zone for the Onpala project, adding approximately 5 acres and changing its zone from OSC 20 to PDC, adjusting the lot line, approving an amended project plan, and approving development subject to hillside grading development permit standards located on the west side of Co-op Terrace Road in Washington County.
Lot to chew on there.
That's a long time.
Yeah, so I think we'll just go through this bit by bit. That's probably the easiest thing to do. They're asking for a zone change amendment to bring in 5 acres from an adjacent parcel that's currently zoned OSC 20. And the reason that they're wanting to bring in that extra acreage is for their septic system. If you go forward a couple slides, I think it'll show that on. Yeah, right there. You can kind of see it highlighted in orange. They're adding that piece to the existing parcel, which is outlined in green. And they want to bring that into the planned development commercial zone. There's some unique features with this site. It's actually part of an ancient landslide. And so the geology of this area has some stability concerns. They've done extensive work with geotech firms to ensure safety of the project. But one of the reasons why they'd like to move that septic system off-site is it moves it outside of the slide area. And long-term, they just think that's a better location for it. So that's that part of it. The other part of the amendment is amending the project plan. And this project originally had a mix of single and double capacity casitas that were going to be built. Originally, their plan was approved back in 2022 for 52 units, and they're wanting to increase the number of units to 58. They are seeing less of a need for 2-room units and more of a need for single-room units, and so they're requesting a variation in the mix of single and double dwelling structures. Their total occupancy is going to remain the same. They're not adding any additional capacity to the resort. They're just wanting to change the mix of accommodations. That's the biggest change with the project plan. The last part of this has to do with the hillside grading development permit. And part of their approval back in 2022, and because of the geology of this location, part of their approval in 2022 was that they acquire a hillside grading permit. And they've been working for the last year with geotech firms and engineers to come up with a plan to develop this property in a safe way. We did do a site visit with the Planning Commission and their engineers a couple weeks ago, where we actually walked the site. We were able to see where the excavation concerns were. Really, for the most part, most of the site is going to be excavated in a way that I think is very, very safe. There's not a lot of concerns. They do have one service road that will be used to connect the main road to a staff area. And it does exceed the 20% slope. And so while we were out on our site visit, they were talking about maybe changing their plan of how to excavate that to bring in more fill material and adjust those slopes. So they're actually going to come back to us. That's part of their requirements, is to provide us an updated plan for their excavation that involves all of those changes that we discussed during the site visit. The Planning Commission did approve the project. They did send a positive recommendation. They felt comfortable with everything that had been put forward. These photos just kind of show renderings of what the structures are going to look like out there. It's basically going to be, one-story individual units. Some units will have double capacity. And then there's going to be a visitor center or people where guests check in. And then there's going to be a spa that has, some spa amenities, that sort of thing. They've provided a timeline for how they anticipate to complete the project. And so far, they've been a great group to work with. They've been very cooperative. They've hired good people to help do this the right way, and we feel very confident in what they've provided so far.
Okay. Any other questions for Reed?
Well, I can say that since I'm with planning and zoning, I've never found a group more willing to adapt their plans to our ordinances, as well as to find ways for solutions, especially like the land stability geotech report. So I make a motion that we approve ordinance number 2023-1234-0, an ordinance amending the planned development commercial zone for the Impala project, adding approximately 5 acres and changing its zone from OSC 20 to PDC on those 5 acres, adjusting the lot line, approving an amended project plan, and approving development subject to hillside grading development permit standards located on the west side of Colab Terrace Road in Washington County. Applicant is Pala Holdings LLC.
I'll second that motion, Mr. Chairman.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion
Thank you,
passes.
Commissioners.
Thank you, Reed. Item number 6 is consideration of resolution number R 2023-3125, a resolution approving the execution of an interlocal cooperation agreement for election services between Washington County and Enterprise City. Devin Snow.
Thanks, Commissioners. This is a standard form agreement like the county has with other communities in the county. This would require the county to provide vote-by-mail elections for Enterprise City. County would perform all of the statutorily required processes as part of the municipal election and general election. And Enterprise City would pay the costs of that election, so ballot printing and so on, actual costs.
Okay, just like with every other city.
Correct.
All right.
Well, Mr. Chairman, it's pretty straightforward. I'd like to make a motion that we adopt Resolution R-2023-3125, a resolution approving the execution of an interlocal cooperation agreement for election services between Washington County and Enterprise City.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion passes.
I'm glad we
Item
did
number-
that, especially since they've already approved it.
Item number 7 is consideration of resolution number R 2023-3126, a resolution approving an agreement for mutual law enforcement services between Washington County, Utah, and the National Park Service. Not seeing our sheriff.
Devin,
Speak to
can
that
you
one,
speak to
Devin?
that?
Yeah, I can speak to that one, Commissioners. Essentially, this is an agreement for mutual law enforcement services between Zion National Park and our Sheriff's Office. When there are search and rescue needs within the park system can call upon our search and rescue people to help there. And by the same token, if there are emergencies outside of the park, they can be called upon to help us outside of the park as well. So it's a mutual agreement. It's a good thing for the county.
I think it is a good thing for us to have these interlocal agreements. I did appreciate that in case of conflict, there's a termination clause, a 60-day notice, I believe, is all we'd have to give every once in a while. There are those moments that we disagree, but hopefully we won't. So.
There you go.
I move that we approve resolution number R 2023-3126, a resolution approving an agreement for mutual law enforcement services between Washington County, Utah, and the National Park Service.
I'll second that motion, Mr. Chairman.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
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 Aye, motion passes. Item number 8 is consideration of resolution number R 2023-3127, a resolution selecting a contractor, Royalty Enterprises, for the NRCS Combined Disposal Pipeline Realignment Project. Todd?
Thank you, Commissioners. This is a project we've been working on for several years. The Flood Control Authority is actually going to front the money, along with the developer who's going to pay the match. So the county really isn't on the hook for any thing, but they'd like us to administer the contract. So we went ahead and bid the project out. Royalty Enterprises was a successful low bidder, and we would like you to approve the contract for $1,079,250 to complete this project. Any questions?
Well, this isn't anything new. This has been the practice, and especially as it relates to the Flood Control Board, which is representative of all the cities around, and their interest and citizens help pay for some of the funds, and the citizen or the developer pays for their share. So that's not my only comment.
Yeah, this one was accelerated at the request of the developer, so they agreed to pay the 35%. So it's good for everybody. We don't have to come up with any funding at all, so it's great.
I like things where we don't have to pay.
It's always good.
Well, good. Thank you, Todd, for everything
Thank
you do, especially managing these NRCS.
No,
Grants
it's a
as they
pleasure
come.
there.
So, in fact, it's one thing that's made us more resistant to flooding in a year like this is all the work that's been done over several decades. So thank
Helps
you.
us sleep at night, that's for sure, when there's
Yeah.
clouds out.
Well, we ready for motion?
We are ready for a motion.
All right, so I'd like to make a motion that we adopt resolution R-2023-3127, a resolution selecting a contractor, Royalty Enterprise, for the NRCS Combined Disposal Pipeline Realignment Project. That's my motion.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion passes. Item number 9 is a consideration of resolution R 2023-3128, a resolution to oppose the designation of the proposed Grand Canyon National Monument. Oh, I'm so excited for this one. Devin, would you like to speak first before I go off on it?
Sure, I'll just summarize it briefly, Commissioner. So the President of the United States, as you know, has the authority under the Antiquities Act to designate national monuments. And recently there was a proposal by an Arizona Senator, Sinema, to designate a national monument in Arizona, known as the Grand Canyon National Monument. This is about 1 million acres. We're talking about the Arizona Strip. It would limit uses there, obviously. Many Utahns use that land, and so it would have an impact on our residents here. This resolution would express opposition to that proposal.
This is ridiculous.
It really is.
As always, not the resolution, sorry, not you, not the resolution. This is, if you can look back, as many people have, especially here in southern Utah, into the 1970s, and there was a plan by many people from the east to lock up the entire western United States in one fell swoop. And that didn't happen. The federal government can't designate monuments on private land or on something that they don't own. And so they look to the 12 western states where they have the majority of the, and not just like a small majority. If you can look up a map, there's a really compelling one, it's usually in red, that shows every little dot of federal land. And if you look at the 12 western states, it's like somebody painted with a broad brush stroke over all of them. And then there's little dots, like somebody rested their pen somewhere on every other state. And that's the federal holdings, everything west of, or east of Colorado, and everything west of Colorado is just owned by the federal government. So where can they designate new national monuments? They can designate it on federal land. And honestly, people are idiots because they don't understand what that means. And they say, oh good, well the Grand Canyon should be protected. It's already protected. It's a national park, which doesn't have the same level of protection as a national monument, but they think it's not protected? Man, they could go in and strip mine it. Maybe that's how they made the Grand Canyon. Maybe it was a big open pit mine once. Maybe we should go in and protect it finally. Morons. I can't, this is a drastic overreach of the federal government, a drastic overreach of the Antiquities Act, which is supposed to be the smallest land compatible with the protection of the antiquity that they're trying to protect and preserve. I think another 1 million acres, they have pieced together what they wanted to do in the 1970s, but in much smaller forms. But it has had the same exact effect, and they have no problem taking land that, I mean, Utah has the second most federal land of any state in the nation, just barely behind Nevada, which is number 1. 66% of our land is federal. 66% of Washington County is federal. And so they protect these massive swaths completely in the face of the Antiquities Act, because it's not in the smallest land compatible. It is just a major land grab, and the event that we're about to leave for right after this is us trying to lobby counties from across the entire nation to help stop crap like this, because this is a land grab by the federal government. We want to oppose I want to oppose this in the strongest form possible. This is just one way that we can actually put it in writing. So,
Well, you failed, no, you didn't fail at anything, that was excellent, but you didn't mention the fact that the 10th Amendment specifically on the bigger scale, which the Constitution, which they ignore, says that these are state decisions. And I don't want people from New Jersey deciding what happens in Utah. And this is the way that people that don't understand what we do with our land, and that we do protect it, that we do care about it, that we do have multiple use on it, but that the monument status takes away so much of our ability to say that we have some local ability to make what makes us sensible. It's like me buying Christmas for my kids, but having to have Washington, D.C. approve it. It's stupid. This is our house, that's our neighbor, and we have an obligation to support our neighbor. You know, why the Arizona Strip is in Arizona, period, because they don't have law enforcement there. It falls back on us. If somebody does violate some portion of the already existing land, holdings recognition to care for the land, we respond. We have to do the work. I mean, they might as well just give us the Arizona Strip. So having said that, I so am passionate against any incursion upon this again on our lands, just as they did in eastern Utah, and they continue to do. So,
Mr. Chairman,
I'm
if I
with
could
you.
speak, I mean, 1996, I went to Kanab when Clinton declared the Grand Staircase Escalante National Monument. And I believe this was the first time that Eastern liberal presidents realized that they could get a few more votes or get a few more applauses by just locking up vast landscapes in Utah. And of course, we've seen the abuse of the Antiquities Act over and over again at the cost of Utah. I don't think any state has been more abused with this particular act than the state of Utah. And Commissioner Almquist is absolutely right that the Arizona Strip should have always been a part of Utah. You know, my ancestors went out and settled in what is called Bundyville or Mount Trumbull area. They homesteaded. My dad went to school out there. And it's always been a part of our culture and history, the use of the Arizona Strip. Some of you might remember that Secretary Salazar locked up the Arizona Strip from uranium mining, and there are formations on the Arizona Strip. They're called Gretchen pipes, I believe. I think that's the word. But the uranium is actually in these cylinders, in these geological formations, and the footprint to mine this very high quality uranium is only a couple acres.
Yeah.
And yet Salazar took it all off the table at that time for 20 years. And at that time, the Grand Canyon Trust had suggested, it didn't have this catchy name that it has now that I can't pronounce, but they had suggested that this entire area being locked up in a monument. So a few weeks ago, when we heard that the administration was actively pursuing this idea, as somebody who feels culturally tied to this land, I felt sucker punched. I mean, this is really not good. On top of this, just to emphasize the insanity that you've articulately explained, Mr. Chairman, we have major corridors of transmission lines. This monument more than likely would make any sort of pipeline out of the Colorado very difficult. Even though much of that pipeline would be following already a congressionally designated utility corridor, this is just one more example of the abuse of this terrible act. Frankly, I think it needs to go before the Supreme Court, because I think it's wrong to use the Antiquities Act the way that it's been done. But to the degree that this motion, this resolution can at least put us on the record of voicing our opposition, I'm more than happy to do that.
And it would be really nice if Congress actually did what they were supposed to do, which is go in and fix an abuse of the power that they granted to the president long ago to save things like, you know, the cabin that Lincoln was born in or something. That should be the national monument, but they don't. They, because of the political ideology of so many of them, they allow the president to abuse the power because it serves their own selfish interest and the selfish interest groups that they follow and want to cater to. And so this is what we're dealt with. Again, this will be the third one on the Arizona Strip, next to the Parashant and the Vermilion National Monuments. This will now be the third one. But because of the big hole in the ground called the Grand Canyon, it's pretty hard for most of Arizona to get there. And so it's Utah residents, including my family, that runs cattle out there. So many of the Bundys and many others that run cattle on the Arizona Strip, it's Utah residents are the ones that are affected by this, not Arizona. Which is why you don't have a Utah senator saying, hey, we should go make another national monument over here. It's Senator Sinema, who I doubt has ever been there and certainly isn't affected by it from her house in Tempe. So anyway, I get energized about this. I think this is a ludicrous thing, and I hope that the Supreme Court, since Congress won't act on it, Supreme Court will take up the case. They came real close, and kind of just for the public awareness, they said some things in the lobsterman's case, from last year that said, you know, this isn't the right time and place for us to address this issue, but we would welcome somebody to bring another one. And I hope that they take up this issue very soon as an absolute abuse of power by this president. So,
And I can say that it's not a perfect analogy, but if somebody had private property here in Washington County and they had a natural feature on it, we could not declare that and tell them that they could not tear it down. Now, we ask them to be respectful of hillsides for a lot of reasons. One, aesthetics, and they usually do that because it's hard to develop anyway. But for us to go on private property, granted, it's not a perfect analogy, I get it, but still, I tend to think that I am part of the greater citizenry, and so somewhat that federal land is my private property for our use under certain laws. It's all of our property. But in this particular case, we can't do that in our county. Why would they be able to do it? And it's more complicated than that, I guess. I know it is. But my point is that why can't we do something if we just on a whim think we should because we want to protect something that's on somebody's private property? I'm not sure we should do that, and nor could we.
no. Well said. Well,
Well, with that, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we adopt Resolution R-2023-3128, a resolution to oppose the designation of the proposed Grand Canyon National Monument.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. To that point,
Let's work for it.
usual in this room.
Yeah, holy cow, what just happened?
I don't know if that sound was that light
Thunder
thunder
outside.
outside. What was that? So I would say that we've said this in the last two commission meetings. Today was the third and last of these. You'll notice that there is no public comment on the list. Those who'd signed up for public comment have been notified that they're on to the next commission meeting when we will resume that. The reason for that on this one is that Washington County is hosting the National Association of Counties Western Interstate Region here. That started today. Commissioner Almquist was with them for a long time today. We have duties as the hosts of that, but that's bringing in county commissioners from the entire nation have come here. We're hosting it this week, and so we have some events that we need to go do. But part of what we just passed in that resolution, it's really nice for us to send a piece of paper that I can tell you the federal administration is going to say, oh, that's wonderful, and then throw it in the trash. It's us building coalitions of people who can help us with that effort. And so that's why they're here, and that's why we get to go have boots on the ground these next few days, and that's why we have to exit quickly here to go get to those other events. Meetings are rebroadcast daily on TDS Cable's channel 22 and 108 at 10, 2, and 5:30, and on demand on YouTube. And with that, we stand adjourned. Thank you.